The movie opens inside a television studio. A talk show is getting ready to begin. The technical crew is testing the lights and sound, giving directions to the studio audience. Cleaners mop the floors, and makeup artists put the final touches on the host's appearance. In the green room, the guest, Damián, admits that his father would have thought the show was ridiculous and probably would have laughed at him for appearing on it. The show begins. The host welcomes Damián and invites him to tell his story honestly, holding nothing back. Damián begins by talking about the job he held for 20 years. He recalls arriving at a furniture workshop one day where employees were busy assembling items. Without warning, he was called into the boss's office. The conversation is muffled and hard to hear, but the look on Damián's face as he exits says enough. He's crushed. He takes off his work overalls and hesitates for a moment at the exit, deep in thought. Then, in a burst of emotion, he grabs the cash register and smashes it. The boss runs after him, but Damián escapes. Desperate to get away, he hides in the back of a delivery truck loaded with furniture. To stay out of sight, he crawls into a large wardrobe. Moments later, the movers arrive, unaware that anyone is inside. They seal the wardrobe doors shut so they won't swing open during transport. Locked inside, Damián realizes he's being carried into the unknown. He hears the movers struggle to lift the wardrobe, never guessing that its weight has mysteriously increased by about 70 kilograms. Soon, Lucia's landlady and the movers leave, leaving Damián trapped. The man cautiously opens the door. He is in someone's bedroom. Hearing the footsteps, Damián runs under the bed, hiding like a lover caught off guard. Luckily, her husband Fede enters after the landlady. The couple discusses the place for the wardrobe, which now blocks the wall. Later, their daughter María appears. Her mother shows her the marks on the end of the wardrobe. They marked her height and that of her brother, as the wardrobe used to belong to Lucia's grandfather. The story returns to the talk show. The host asks how Damián felt when he was hiding under the bed. The guest admits that he was interested in the owner of the house. There was something about her that inspired trust. In the evening, Damián finds out that the psychiatrist has prescribed new pills for Lucia. The woman is annoyed that her husband is not interested enough in her affairs. After that, the whole family goes to bed together, unaware of the secret guest under the bed. In the middle of the night, when Lucia goes to the restroom, Damián's phone accidentally vibrates. The hostess leans over to the bed to see what the noise is, but it turns out to be just her nightmare. Damián gets out from under the bed. He sneaks into the bathroom to relieve himself. Then the man wanders around the house, looking into Maria's bedroom. Damián goes downstairs to the first floor and opens the front door to leave the family alone, but suddenly stops. He looks at their family photo and then closes the door. He goes back to the bedroom and crawls under the bed again. In the morning, he is woken up by a loud alarm clock. Everyone is getting ready for work, while the unemployed Damián waits serenely for everyone to leave. As soon as the house is empty, the intruder gets outside, stretches his stiff muscles, and looks around the house. Then he looks in the refrigerator to replenish his strength. The stolen cookies and milk do the trick. After washing his own glass, Damián decides to wash the dishes left by the hosts for his own peace of mind. This fact makes the talk show host laugh, but the guest admits that for him it brings calm, not a desire to kill someone. After that, Damián continues to explore the house. After changing into the things he found, the man gets to work. He pushes aside an antique cabinet to gain access to the wall. He carefully disassembles the back panel. When he hears a car approaching, he quickly hides in another closet, covering the passage with clothes. Thus, he has a secret hiding place. When Lucia returns home, she notices the clean dishes. She calls out to her husband and daughter, suspecting that they did it, but finds that no one is home. She goes from room to room, trying to figure out what's going on. On the talk show, Damián admits that being in secrecy made him feel like a kind of god, an invisible observer who watches people and gives them his little gifts. The wife asks her husband if he came back in the morning to wash the dishes, but he answers in the negative. And the daughter is not well-mannered enough to do household chores. Fede is worried that his wife did the dishes herself and forgot about it. Memory loss is on the list of side effects of the new drug. However, the talk show viewers are not interested in the moral and ethical side of such manipulation, but in how no one noticed Damián's disappearance. The man explains that he has no family or friends, and in order not to go crazy from loneliness, he pretended to be flying to Mars in a cramped ship to escape from people while sitting in the closet. Damián admits that hiding from his hosts in their own home, he has never been so happy. In the morning, after breakfast, he continues to keep the house tidy. In addition to washing dishes, he makes beds and repairs lockers. Lucia, noticing the unexpected order, did not attach any importance to it, writing it off as a memory lapse due to the pills. And so, the days pass. Damián reads the household books, making notes in them, watches TV, but is careful not to catch Lucia's eye when she returns home. One night, as he is coming out of the closet, he runs into Maria in the hallway on her way to the bathroom. The half-asleep girl did not pay much attention to the dark figure in the doorway. Damián says that over time he has learned the habits of his neighbors. Meanwhile, Lucia complains to her mother that since they brought her grandfather's wardrobe into the house, she feels someone's invisible presence. Damián overhears this conversation and takes note of it. Using this information, he finds a childhood photo of Lucía. Thus, he learns a certain fact from the woman's childhood. Although Damián does not want to talk about it, the host insists. He not only orders to bring the closet on stage, but also takes out the letter he found. It turns out that Lucia's twin brother died of allergies when she was a child. Since they often hid in the closet, the girl hid there, hoping to find her brother someday. Therefore, the adult Lucís perceive the mysterious events in the house as a kind of continuation of this game, perhaps even as a connection with the ghost of her brother. Because of this, she did not tell her family anything about the mysterious cleaner. One day, Lucía climbed into the closet and spoke to a stranger, thinking she was talking to her brother's spirit. Damián listens to her silently from behind a thin wall, puts his hand to the wall, strengthening Lucia's faith. When the show goes to commercial, Damián asks to keep the original agreement and avoid personal questions. However, the host insists that for the sake of ratings, some deals can be canceled. One day, Maria skips school and comes home with a classmate earlier than expected. Damián hides on the ground floor to avoid being noticed. Eavesdropping on the teenager's conversation, he learns that the classmate is using Maria to store illegal substances. She doesn't like it, but the boy uses his magical persuasion to convince her to help. When they go to Maria's room, Damián listens to their conversation, which becomes more interesting by the minute. He slowly climbs the stairs, not knowing whether to intervene, but decides not to give himself away. At night, he hears crying coming from the girl's room. When she falls asleep, Damián takes her phone off the shelf. On it, he finds a video with interesting content. In the morning, Maria cannot find her phone. Damián left the phone at his place. When everyone is leaving, he writes a message to yesterday's guest on behalf of Maria, offering to meet alone. The guy doesn't like this turn of events, but he can't leave. The door is locked. Damián tells him that he knows about the trade in illegal substances. Introducing himself as Maria's father, he demands that the boy leave the girl alone, otherwise the police will find out about his business. At first, the teenager does not agree, which causes Damián to have a fit of rage. He almost beats the boy and then dials his parents' number. The latter threat is effective enough for the schoolboy to agree to the demand and leave, promising to leave Maria alone. During the next break, while Damián is waiting for the filming to start backstage, he hummed a song. Lucía comes up to him, hugs him, and sings along, and then sincerely thanks him. The shot switches to the scene where she tells her deepest heartfelt secrets to an empty wardrobe, not realizing that a mysterious guest is lurking behind the wall. The woman admits that she no longer thinks that the inhabitant of the closet is her brother's ghost, but an imaginary lover. She imagines what it would be like if he had a body, goes to bed, touches herself, while Damián eavesdrops and does the same. This information makes the audience laugh. The offended man calls everyone present ghosts, figments of his imagination, to whom he confesses. The presenter tells him to pull himself together, and the audience suddenly becomes empty. Even the presenter disappears. The man sits in an empty auditorium, and the host approaches him. Damián admits that he needs to talk to a real journalist. Immediately, Inaki appears in the chair opposite him, and together they sit down at the table, discussing the situation with Maria's boyfriend. The daughter blames her real father for what happened. The parents don't understand what she is talking about, and the teenager starts screaming without really explaining anything. Lucía discusses the situation with her mother, planning to go to her house with her daughter for the holidays. Damián eavesdrops on the conversation from the closet. When Inaki notices that the man is exploiting Lucia's fantasies, he declares that a real gentleman should leave the house. Damián says he doesn't want to talk to him anymore. He even walks out the door, nods to the neighbor in the window as a greeting, but then turns back in, leaving Lucia's husband alone. Lucía and her daughter are leaving for the weekend, but Fede is not sad, and after a shower, he invites his mistress home. Damián can hear the sounds of their activities, but to be sure, he looks out of the closet. After making sure that everything is exactly as it seems, he wonders what to do and comes out of the closet right to the journalist. Powerless and indecisive, he hits the closet door with his fist. The sound attracts Fede's attention, and he tiptoes into the closet to make sure that no one is there. The frightened guest waits to be exposed, but the owner is distracted by his mistress. In the evening, eavesdropping on the conversation, Damián learns that Lucía, like her husband, is highly allergic to insect bites, and that is why her brother died. The mistress offers to get the insects and eliminate his wife, but the man immediately refuses. Damián admits to the journalist that great ideas can come to different people. Inaki reminds him that their interview is not real and that everything is happening in the man's head. After waiting for the exhausted lovers to fall asleep, Damián gets out of his hiding place and goes down to the ground floor. But instead of cleaning up as usual, he just sits on the couch, deep in thought. When the owner and his mistress leave the house, he learns how to make an insect trap and sets about making one. He sets up the traps in the yard and waits for enough insects to gather, after which he calms them down with smoke and covers them with foil. Then he makes another trap, carefully pouring the insects into a trash can, finally opening a window. Damián hides in the closet just before Fede and his mistress return. In his hiding place, the man sees a journalist, who asks him what he is up to. When his mistress leaves, Fede takes up cleaning to cover his tracks. As he throws the leftover pizza into the trash, he releases a swarm of insects that pounce on him. Damián hears screams and comes out to look. The owner of the house is lying on the floor, begging for help, but the man just sits on a chair and watches him. Damián sits there until he hears the sound of a car. Lucía is coming home. Hiding in the closet, he listens as María finds her dead father lying on the floor. The man remains sitting motionless until the evening, when the pest control service comes to the house. In his fantasies, Damián admits that he no longer feels like a deity, but rather like a spider lying in ambush. He recognizes that the interview has come to an end and disappears. Lucía visits her mother to find comfort. In the evening, when she is alone, Damián watches her from his closet. When she falls asleep, the man comes out and gently lies down in bed next to her, in the place of her late husband. Damián embraces the woman, and she wakes up but does not turn around, thinking that she is again seeing a ghost, either of her late husband or of an imaginary lover. Take my advice, and whenever you buy a cabinet, check it very carefully.